I want to play this one last clip here. And this is how things are done. Sometimes people ask me, where do you get your news? And I like to read a lot. I like to read, I'll still read the Washington Post, the New York Times. I have The Hill. I have Axios. I think I like, and again, some of the things that I see coming from these news organizations are disappointing. And it's not because it's not something I don't agree with. It's just because I do believe that a lot of these news organizations have got to now get into the same sort of game that everybody else is. And it's, how do I get clicks? And what I'll do is I'll just post Donald Trump's going to win the election for 20 days in a row and freak people the fuck out. There's going to be a big red wave in 2022, freak people the fuck out. So people are clicking on their things. And to me, that's very disappointing. But, I would say, so I get it. I do like to read. But one person in particular that I will proudly say I get my news from is Jon Stewart. And people go, oh my God, you're getting it from a comedian. He's a comedian, sure. And he does a comedy show. But I will tell you, and I don't agree with every single thing Jon Stewart says. I don't agree with that. And everybody doesn't agree with what I say. And that's just how life is. And that's just how things go. But Jon Stewart, to me, is a master at being able to talk to somebody about a particular issue and be on top of his game 100% of the time. It is a master class that when I hear him interviewing anybody, I am going to be there every time, especially if it's somebody that would be considered on the opposite side. So, he interviewed on his show the other night. And by the way, before I get to the interview, he interviewed Ken Buck, who was a former representative from the state of Colorado. But Ken Buck had saw what was going on in this Congress, and he looked around and he's like, man, this is way too crazy for me. I got to get the fuck out of this because this is just nuts. This is one of the reasons why the Democrats are one seat closer to being in charge of the House with zero election. None. They are continuing to get closer because Republicans are dropping out because of the nutballs like a Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boeberts. They look around and go, nah, I got to get out of this. And it's kind of a shame because, we need even Republicans, we need Democrats who understand rule of law. They understand the actual Constitution. They actually understand democracy in this country rather than this batshit crazy faction that basically wants us to root for Russia now. And it just makes no sense. But anyway, Jon Stewart had Ken Buck on. And I was going to say he had on that very same show. If you have not had a chance to see it, he did a brilliant piece, an absolute brilliant piece of the trial, the Trump trial, and finding him guilty. And he also did a piece in that same clip about how the media covers it. So you should really go watch it because he was kind of showing the difference between the court of public opinion that Donald Trump tries to get everybody to buy into versus actual court where you have to prove facts. And you could see, and all of us obviously already know this, but the way Jon Stewart laid it out was so great and so brilliant. The difference between the court and public opinion and the difference between actual court where you have to bring actual proof. Brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. But I do want to play this clip of him interviewing Ken Buck. And Ken Buck, they're talking about Donald Trump and they're talking about the trial. And Ken Buck thinks for a second he's on Fox News until he realizes that he's talking to somebody who is smarter than him on this subject, at least. And you'll see that in the clip and judge for yourself. In my opinion, he's smarter than him on this subject. And he's not on Fox News. This is not a softball interview. He's not going to let him get away with so many of his answers, and so many times where he tries to. Jon Stewart continues to press, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I think you guys will enjoy this.
Had the authority to request a search warrant, put handcuffs on somebody, prosecute somebody. That is always done by an independent Department of Justice.
Right.
On the other hand, Alvin Bragg ran for office to get that authority to do those very things. It's two separate situations.
Not solely, and also those things come with a process. He can't just go in there and go, arrest that guy. This isn't Navalny. This is a grand jury was impaneled of normal New Yorkers, not Alvin Bragg. And he presented his evidence. And they came back and said, yeah, there's a case here. So then they impaneled the jury. And then both sides got to choose.
You can indict a ham sandwich. That's what a grand jury is known
Okay,
for.
but generally you wouldn't convict a ham sandwich.
No.
Because at some point, 12 New Yorkers would go, that's just a ham sandwich.
Brilliant. So, I mean, that's what I love. I mean, obviously the first line is that Alvin Bragg's a Democrat and this is a political witch hunt. Well, Jon Stewart lays out to a guy who was a lawmaker. This isn't some idiot MAGA that you work with. This was a lawmaker who's going to try the same bullshit on Jon Stewart's show that he would easily probably be able to lay out on Jesse Waters' show. If he said the same thing on Jesse Waters, not only would he agree with Ken Buck, but Jesse Waters would take it to a completely different level of lying. But here, Jon Stewart's like, no, buddy. Just because he's a Democrat, there's a process on top of this. It's not like we just went in and said, you are in jail now, Donald Trump. There were two different ways that Alvin Bragg had to prove his case. One, through a grand jury, and the second time through an actual court case. But let's get back.
And we will see what an appeals court does. Look, you're putting me in an unenviable position of defending Donald Trump. I've spent a long time.
I'm putting you in a position of defending the process that he was put through. That process has standards. You said it yourself. An appeals court is going to look at this. There are many safeguards within our legal system, and he's getting the benefit of almost all of them. In a way that poor New Yorkers will never get a sniff of.
I agree both.
Again, I want to go back because I got so I get excited when I see stuff like this because Ken Buck, who is used to in this Republican Party, he's used to either using innuendo or trying to circumvent the answer or the question or whatever it is. And you could tell he's already starting to run out of answers. So he wants to try to deflect this whole thing and try to get out of this by saying, hey, look, to make a joke, you're trying to get me to defend Donald Trump. Jon Stewart didn't let him slide there. He goes, no. I'm not trying to get you to do any. I'm trying to get you to defend the system, not Donald Trump. Forget about Donald Trump. This should happen to anybody. You know, I keep hearing this. If they do it to me, they can do it to you. Bullshit. That's not what it should be. It should be if they can do it to me, they fucking better do it to him.
So he's getting dewier process than anybody has ever gotten. So I don't understand. Just because you don't like the result. He doesn't like the result of the election. Our elections are a fraud and we're a third world country. He doesn't like the result of a criminal case. Our courts are a fraud.
Real quick, just look at Ken Buck. You could tell his wheels are spinning. He's like, I don't know how to fucking answer this. How am I going to get out of this?
What would make him better? If they did what I wanted.
No,
that's not our system.
No,
that's a monarch.
I think what would make them better in his mind if they didn't convict him.
That's my point.
Yeah, but I don't think he wants justice in this country. I don't think he's standing up and saying we need justice. He's standing up and saying the election's stolen, so let's see if we can overturn the election in Congress. I didn't win in the courts, so let's go to Congress. I voted to certify those electors, by the way.
You walked out here, and you said to me, this is just 15 minutes ago.
Okay, he's gonna make a joke about how you said we weren't gonna agree on something, and here we are agreeing. And he's of course doing his Jon Stewart thing, but that to me is absolute brilliance, and that's why if I tell anybody I follow Jon Stewart, if you watched his Apple show and you watched any of his interviews that he did with the woman in Arkansas who was trying to stop the any programs for transgender people, or the gentleman he talked to about guns, or the gentleman he talked to about overturning the election in Arizona. It is pure brilliance. It is just absolute brilliance. And, I have nothing but the highest respect for somebody that can be in a conversation with somebody and not just hold their own, but basically own the entire conversation with absolute 100% fact. And literally almost every time he interviews somebody, the person on the other side is like, oh shit, how do I get out of this? This is not good. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this little bonus show. It is 8:12, so I have got to get prepared and ready for the Boston Celtics game 1. I know some of you don't care about this. I need you to know how important this is to me. I need the Celtics to win 4 more games to be the world champions. They haven't won since 2009. I've been a fan since I was a kid, since the early 80s. So I really need the Celtics to win this. If you're watching this and you don't care about who wins, or you're a Celtics fan, good on you. But if you don't care who wins, send me some positive vibes. I'd appreciate that. I apologize for having to run and get my charger. Thank you for sticking with me through that. And you can join us again on Tuesday night, Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. She will be back with me on Tuesday night, and she does her show on Thursday nights. Like I said, she's not going to be doing her show tonight because she was running a 5K. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back on Tuesday night, and we will see you then.